All right, welcome to another episode of the Educators podcast. I'm super stoked. One of my favorite people on the planet. She was my classroom mom. She was the super mom, and she's probably the mom of everybody at the school I taught at, Hermitage Elementary. She is now on the left coast, as I am stuck still on the right coast. She's on the west coast. I'm on the east. But she is doing the deal and having an awesome time over there. It's great to have with me. This is my very special guest, super mom, Linda Arroyo. Hey, Linda, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited. I mean, we have a lot of educational stuff to talk about, but also just to catch up. But first, coffee. I mean, that seems to be the both for teachers and the education system. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. We had to have our coffee before going in.
Absolutely.
It reminds me too of like this. One of my students, I don't think it was the year that Nene was with me. I got to remember, maybe it was, but I had a student that was like a bull in the china shop. Bless his heart. He was a really nice kid, but I had a really rough night's sleep the night before. And I got the Route 44 size Sonic drink full of caffeine. And that was what was going to get me through the day. And first thing in the morning, he finally got a passing score on the morning work. And he came running over with his Chromebook. And he went, "Mr. Burden, look," boom. Knocked
I kind of remember that.
And I just was like one of those moments where it's like, you just destroyed my caffeine. And he felt so bad. It broke my heart. I had to tell him it's not, no, it's fine. But it was one of those moments where it's like,
do you remember the kid's name?
Yes. I don't want to say his name, but okay. I bet Nene knows who it is.
It was either Nene's year or the year after. So I do kind of remember. That's why.
Yeah. And he actually is one of my favorite success stories for him because he was a struggling reader this is another story. He's a struggling reader, but he worked so hard. His grandma was a retired teacher, and he just was really working hard on his reading and everything. He was just studying, really putting in the effort. And I remember going into a meeting at the end of the year, and we were bragging that he had gotten to grade level, or he didn't get quite to grade level, but he went from 0 to like 500. And it was such a victory. And I remember in the meeting and we're bragging and we're having this big celebration. We're all excited. And I leave that meeting to go into our teacher planning meeting. And I must have just missed a very tense, bitter interaction between teachers and the administrator. Because it's real bitter. No one's talking. Everybody's just giving each other dirty looks. And then my butt comes in going, "Hey, everybody. It's a great day, isn't it? I'm so happy." And then I said, so-and-so just got to 500 on his Lexile. And then our favorite administrator goes, "Well, so he's not on grade level." And I was like, "Yeah, but this is the kid that
you don't know. Yeah, you have no idea.
This was the kid that was like kindergarten level in third grade and has made so much." And kind of when I taught you, I do want to talk about the importance of student growth with you and like in what you've seen both with your own children, but also in the schools. And but first, we got to introduce our other special guest here.
This is Daisy Lou. So you remember Mini Star?
Yes,
I lost her. Yes, I lost her.
Immortal hero in our hearts.
I know. Almost 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in September, and I'm still mourning her loss. I had her for almost 15 years. So it took me I'm still healing from her. But yeah. I was in a better place to get another Pom because I love my Pomeranians.
A sweetheart.
Yeah, she just turned 5 months day before yesterday.
A happy birthday.
Yeah. She's my little cutie patootie.
And what's her name again?
Daisy Lou. So the girls named her. We had Minnie and Star Estrella, and then the girls named her Daisy because of Minnie and Daisy, they're friends.
Yep.
And then Lou for Luna and Star.
Gotcha. Luna, Moon, Star. That makes sense. Daisy, Luna.
Yeah. So this was the girls doing. I let them name her. So here you go.
What a cutie patootie. She's like a sweet little peanut butter ball or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Doesn't she look like a mini German Shepherd?
Yes. Oh, she's adorable.
Yeah, she's
You
a
know,
crier.
there there is something to pets, some people that don't understand how they are family. A
Oh,
lot of
for
people
sure.
draw that line between pets and family. It's like, no, they are your family, and
They are.
unfortunately they're on loan from us. We don't get to keep them
Absolutely.
forever, but but when they're here, they make our lives so much brighter.
So much brighter. Absolutely. Yeah. You.
Well, how are you enjoying the West Coast?
Um, I'm getting used to it. We're almost at the 2-year mark, so now I'm getting used to it. But of course, we're leaving San Diego and we're heading
Yes.
to the Bay Area. It's great. It's growing on me. I wish we had more sun, which is crazy that I'm saying that in San
Right.
Diego. I mean, the weather has not broken yet, and we're in June almost.
Yeah. That's odd to
Yeah,
say about San Diego. San Diego
right.
usually by this time is just not super nice, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm just waiting for the summer to hit because I feel like I had more summer in Virginia than I do here. But I
Yeah, but
love
this
Virginia.
well, Virginia's great. The humidity is the only thing that really bothers me in the summer. Yeah,
Well,
because
I'm from Jersey, so Jersey
oh,
had more humidity.
true, true.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
Atlantic Beach versus
Yeah. Yep, exactly. But I wanted to touch base a little bit about what you said about not necessarily being on grade level
yeah,
because Aritza, my little one, we've had a little bit more struggle. It came really naturally to Asnacia, and more than anybody. For
yeah,
Asnacia, she didn't get it until she got it. Once it clicked, it
yeah,
clicked,
yeah.
and it was easy sailing. For
She was
Aritza,
always one that she almost like she was a deeper thinker,
yes,
but like once like it was like, yeah, some people they'll get an idea, but they may not have the whole concept. With this nation, it was like she'll wouldn't quite get it until she had it all, and then when she had it all, it was
it was done.
hard drive. Yeah,
100%. And that's
yep,
always and she still is like that. Like
hmm
she needs to ask the questions, every single question she needs answered. And
yeah,
then when she gets the full picture, she's got it and she could move on and she's fine. With Aritza, I don't know. She's a little bit slower. It was a little bit hard for me as a parent because Asnacia was my first and Asnacia got it. With
yeah,
Aritza, I had to kind of pull from her. And I am a very involved parent, which so I had to
absolutely,
I had to kind of pull from her, especially let's talk about reading and getting her to grade level because that's what we started with.
yeah.
Even her teacher now, she had her last year for third grade, this year for fourth grade.
That's wow.
And yeah, she's a great teacher. She is phenomenal. But she actually told me a few months ago, she was like, I can't believe how well she's doing with reading because the beginning of last year she was at first grade reading level in third
Yeah,
grade and now she is at maybe almost fifth grade reading level
that's
and
awesome.
yeah, and she now likes reading like
Yeah,
she's loving it, but it was the consistency of just read a little bit even if it's like baby books. Even if it's baby books,
hmm
it's just seeing the words over and over again and like letting it click on to her and letting her get into the story and really like enjoying what she's reading.
absolutely. There's so
And
many different components to that too, and
absolutely.
my first thought when I think of Aritza, because your two daughters are so different on personality too. Whereas
Yes.
Nation, she's very polite, she's very accommodating. She wants like she seems to want to make other people happy. She's great
People pleaser to a
people
T.
pleaser. Salt
Yes.
of the earth too. She's so fun. She's funny, and both of them are funny. With Aritza,
Yes.
we're the supporting characters in her show,
A
and
100%.
and I almost laugh to think that maybe even with reading, it's like she was waiting for reading to interest her, or like almost like, okay, like I'm not struggling with reading, struggling with me.
Yes.
You know,
Yes,
that mentality.
100%. I absolutely love that you said that. That is so true. That is
But
so
I
true. I
want,
love that you love them. I love that you know them that much.
well, it's so funny because as Nation was the only one I actually had formally in my class.
Formally.
Every morning the entourage would come. Like Asnacia is great. She was she had her best friends, and she had a couple friends in the class, and there's that classic shot of when they threw the ball and it bounced and got the target, and she's all like, "Look at me," and all that stuff.
Yes.
And there's all those kind of cool moments, but also Aritza would come by every morning, and she'd have her little entourage of kindergartners with her. And I remember one time I noticed there was one girl that wasn't with him, and before I even said anything, she would just come by to say hi, and then she'd go to class. The whole entourage. I mean, it was like she was entourage. She had Turtle. She had Johnny Drama or Jenny Drama, whatever.
Yep.
But then there was one girl that wasn't there one time, and I asked her about it. And she goes, "Oh, we're not talking to her."
Yeah,
And I realized that as a third grade teacher, middle-aged man, I suddenly had beef with a kindergartner that I didn't even know. But the way that Aritza was telling me, she didn't say like I have beef or we're not. She said we're not as if I can't talk to her either.
Yeah,
like
no,
I
no,
need
no,
to
no.
shun her too. Like this little kindergartner in the hall, I have to go like, oh no,
nope.
I already said no, I can't talk to you.
Nope. I've always said, I absolutely love that. I always said that Aritza's honestly, truly, and I know you can back me up 100%. She is a leader.
Yep.
She is a leader. I just have to, as a parent, I have to make sure
Yes.
she is leading in the right direction.
Yes.
Because
she's bound for leadership somewhere. We just got to make sure that she uses her powers for good. Because
yes.
Do you remember the Minecraft question? Do you remember that's like tell everybody how that started? She was trying to get you to get Minecraft, and as you can see by my background, I was kind of like the Minecraft teacher. So she pulled a fast one with you, didn't she?
So she didn't even know what Minecraft was until Mr. Birdie introduced her to Minecraft. And then she realized that since Mr. Burden is the one that's doing the whole Minecraft thing, it has to be educational, right? And we were in this, I forgot what kind of night that was, but
it was like a STEM night or something, wasn't it?
A STEM night, yeah. So Mr. Burden was had his whole table with other kids doing like educational stuff.
Yeah.
I mean Minecraft, but in an educational way.
Yeah.
And Mr. Burden would not leave. I mean, Adisa would not leave Mr. Burden's side. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that. They're cutting the lawn outside.
All good.
So, come here, Mama. Come here. So then she goes, and I have a rule in my house, electronics on the weekends.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. And she was like, it's a weekday. I think it was like a Wednesday or a Thursday. She's like, but we're doing Minecraft in school because Mr. Burden says it's educational. So that means that I can play Minecraft during the week because it's almost like homework. And I'm looking at her like, what? And Mr. Burden is looking like,
well, it was funny too.
But I fully support.
Yeah, the way she did it too, she was slick because she came to me first and she sits down at the desk. Like, now this is like, it was like an expo where like we were doing like stuff with the 3D printer. I was showing Minecraft educational. Shane Whitney was over doing 3D printing stuff. We had all this stuff going on.
Robotics I think was there too.
Yeah, everybody was doing all kinds of different like showcases, and she comes over and sits at my table like this. And she just waits for the other kids to go, and she goes, so Mr. Burden, is Minecraft for school? And she said, I don't know if she used the word educational, but she said, does Minecraft, is that good for school? Is that used in school? And I explained to her, I did my spiel, and she kind of went, oh, okay. And then I don't know if she went and got you or you came over to her, and she starts going tell mom about education. And I did the same spiel to you, and she just looks up at you like,
Yep, like
got
you
you,
heard
like,
that from
and
him.
like you just
Uh-huh.
like she just got her lawyer, and
Yeah,
and
lawyered.
like and then I realized really quickly what the whole she was trying to get me to tell you that it
Yes,
doesn't count as electronics only for the weekend, that it's not a
exactly.
game, that that's one of my favorite
Exactly.
Ari stories, was how she just looked up and it was just like,
Oh my
and
gosh, that is hilarious. I always remember that. I remember when you told me about now we aren't friends with her
yeah,
because
that
it's
poor
like
girl.
you're part of my crew, so you are a part, so you cannot be friends.
I must have
What?
been the Jeremy Piven of that entourage, you know. I must have been that, you
I
know.
could just imagine her. I could just imagine her, like totally. And then the way that she used to go into your classroom and take out all of the blocks, the math
Yes, yep.
the math blocks. And you would just let her, and I'm like, oh, poor Mr. Burden, you have to like separate all of these again.
I was fine. You know, the fact that she was interested in him, though, you know, I was just kind of like, you know, that is who she is, and
It is.
I think that's an important thing too with education is you've got to let the kids be kids. You know, if the expectation, you know, I think it's, and I really didn't think about it till I became a teacher. How I don't want to say silly, but how, yeah, I guess silly it is to think to expect second, third, and fourth graders to sit in the same desk all day long, you
Yes.
know, without wanting to play, without wanting to get, you know, yeah, granted we do manipulative stuff, but the amount of structure is important. But do you feel like there needs to be a healthy balance between structure but also letting kids explore?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they start putting together on their own real life situations
Yeah,
and learning. They
hands
really
on.
do. Hands on
I
for sure.
I even think teachers like I had I talked with Andrew Pudawa, who he runs a program where they teach writing, which is fascinating because he pointed out a couple inconsistencies that I didn't even think about, where the writing in third grade is very free form, where it actually needs structure. You need to teach the fundamentals of a complete sentence and all that kind of stuff. And then in the upper grades, they're more structured, when that's when they should be creative for because they have more life experience. But he also talked about how teachers, like, it's it's reverse in how you get your degree. Like when you go to get a teaching degree, you you don't get into the classroom fully until your final year. You have a
Mhm.
practicum or an observation, but you're not truly hands on until your final year. Where I almost feel like it should be the other way around. You should have a student teaching, shadowing somebody for almost half a year before you take any classes, because then when you get to your classes you're like, oh yeah, that's what this is, that you start making
Oh
those
yeah.
connections.
Oh
And
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I almost feel like that's something we need to look at with kids. There's a balance between letting kids, because if you go full Montessori, I think you're missing out, like, kids do crave structure. Would you agree that kids do crave that kind of structure?
Absolutely. Even in home life.
Yeah,
Absolutely. If you let a kid come home and do whatever they want, yeah, of course they're gonna jump at the first few times, but then afterwards you're gonna see a different reaction. You see it time and time again. You as an educator of all different types of children,
yeah,
you could absolutely see a difference of when a child does not have the structure at home and
hmm,
then goes to school, or a child who does have structure, too much structure at home and goes to school, or one that has almost like a little balance.
yeah,
You can actually see a difference between between the three of them. I don't think they
exactly.
should be fully structured because I think that's not too militant, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
claustrophobic with the structure.
no, 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 no,
Yeah,
absolutely not. Absolutely not. But some structure is great. Like my kids know they have chores, they've
yeah.
done chores since they were little. They have chores and then free time. Play. Turn that TV off.
Well, that
Yeah.
yeah, and that's important too. Is that, yeah, we used to when we started having a designated recess at school, I would always tell the kids it's time for us to go touch grass.
I would love
Which
that.
which I mean that's a common social media slogan about you're spending too much time online. You need to go touch grass. Where to me, I was like, yes, we need put the Chromebook down. Let's get out of our chairs. Let's go touch grass. Let's get outside. Or even if it wasn't like if it was raining and we had to stay inside, close the Chromebook. It's like
Yeah.
we've got to have that screen down time just to remember who we are as humans. Do you
Yeah.
notice though, like, and how has social media and technology affected your daughters? And do you see a difference, or do you see is it not all negative? Is it not all positive? Do you see a problem or a difference?
Um, I don't think it's all negative. I don't.
Mhm.
I think there's a huge difference because the girls are 3.5 years apart, which makes them 4 years educationally apart because
Yep.
of the way the birthday cutoffs.
Hmm.
There was a big difference. Esnaisha did not get a phone until last year. Like it's almost like a year. I think she got it like in January or February of last year, only because she had to cross like a bridge to get to school.
Hmm.
And we weren't okay with that. But it was minimal. You get the phone, you come home, you put it down, you know?
Yep.
And then we've always been very lenient with TV because I'm a TV watcher. My
Hmm.
husband's a gamer.
Yep.
So we're a little bit lenient when it comes to that. Arit says my gamer. Arit, you've created a monster, Mr. Birdie.
But it's educational,
But it's
Mom.
educational, Mom. Just that's Mr. Burden.
Yeah, Mr. Birdie said.
Yeah. So it's not, I never think it's a bad thing. I think too much of it is bad. I think everything with a balance.
Yeah.
The girls, Esnisha doesn't have social media. Neither one of my kids have social media. So I think
That's
that's,
a good thing.
yeah. Esnisha's turning 14. This month actually.
Oh,
In June.
happy birthday.
Can you believe it? It's
I
crazy.
can't.
But
I can't I'm on Facebook and I'm friends with a lot of the parents of my former students, and I'm like Christian Phillips, his son John. Like I saw a picture and there's this guy that's in learning to drive with Christian, and then it hits me that that's John, and I'm like, how is he driving? No,
how?
and instantly my beard turned white. It's like
Yeah.
that scene. It's like how that scene at the end of Saving Private Ryan where you see Matt Damon just suddenly turn into a 90-year-old man in the same
Yes,
scene. I felt like that. It's like they're growing up too fast.
it is. Yeah, it's
Stop.
true. It's ridiculous. Like we're starting to plan her quinceañera, and I'm like, how we do this?
Oh,
But
oh no.
yeah, but
No.
yeah. So social media, I think if I give in to like the social media, I think that's where there's a lot of I wouldn't say problems, but
Yeah.
that's when we start losing them a lot. You can't really control social media that much as a parent.
Yeah.
And that social media world is very crazy. TikTok, Instagram, a lot of that stuff easily hacked.
It it's and there's it's a different world, and it's one of those things where it's a fake world with real world consequences. Like,
Absolutely. And I
yeah,
tell them all the time, once you've upload, you can't really download it.
even if
It's
you
it's
delete it,
there.
it's there. Yeah,
It's
it's
there.
there.
It's
Yeah.
even if yeah. And I'm very careful with pictures that I put up of the girls
Yeah.
because
You have
it's
to
there.
be. Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's scary now. It's scary because there's I mean, it's almost like there's always been creeps in the world, but the internet has gotten all the creeps together in one access point. But not
Yes.
just the creeps, but also the trolls, unhappy people. There seems to be, and it's kind of like in the classroom where you have that one student that doesn't get the attention they want, so they get attention any way they can. So they'll flip a desk, or they'll go for negative attention versus no attention at all. And
Absolutely.
I've noticed on like Twitter and a lot of these things where it's almost like the the content that gets the most attention is that hostile troll kind of attention. And
Absolutely.
it's reinforced as they continue to do that. And to put a 14-year-old, let alone a 14-year-old, like in some cases an 8-year-old, because I've heard some parents just let kids just jump on no matter what, to let a child who still is like you and I have both studied child psychology and development, that age where they're starting to get their own identity, you know, the Piaget, or it's Erickson, where they talk about the identity, they're finding their own identity at that 7 or 8 years old. For them to then suddenly be immersed in this very toxic environment, it's got to be tough to navigate.
It has to be, and the way that now this toxic world is going to mold them, and mold their personality. Like, it's a little bit scary.
I've seen kids talk to each other as if they're in a chat room. You know, like
absolutely, they're losing reality a little bit, because they're so into it. Like Aritza, she plays Roblox, she plays Minecraft. They're not allowed to chat. So
that's
the chat,
probably
obviously, it's on. Yeah, the chat's on, obviously. You know, there's not, I don't know. I'm not techie. But I don't know how to like completely turn it off. It's still on.
But she can't interact,
She cannot interact, and she has to play on our desktop computer. We're in the room with Bobby's computer. We're in the same space. Yeah. So we let her play, you know, but it has to be supervised. I can't. She's only 10. Like, I'm not okay with it.
Yeah. Now, with Ari, as sweet as she is deep down, I think she would probably, like, I think she could hold her own with some of those trolls. I think she would be the one making some of the trolls cry.
Oh, like, she's feisty. Oh, yeah.
Like they would come for her, and she'd be like, maybe you should get out of your grandma's basement. I mean, you get a job.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
She'd be one of those, just like, not like, just quietly just going, like, hurling just the most devastating insults and no.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Esnacia will probably be crying, and Aritza will probably be like, let me tell you something.
Yep.
Absolutely.
The powers of good. I always felt like Esnacia's going to grow up to be like she's either going to be the CEO of some tech company, or like a doctor at some self-help or some kind of physical or mental, like, help facility, and something inspirational.
She is her eye is on the prize. She wants to be a wildlife biologist. So I don't know if you remember, she wanted to do zoology for a long time.
Yep.
It's not really zoology, so it's wildlife biology. She just thought it was the same thing.
Yeah.
So she likes big snake, like anacondas and boa constrictors. And she keeps asking for one. And I told her, honey, whenever you buy your first house, I will get to see you. Not in my house. But not in my house. Not in my house. But what we did a few years ago, we actually, okay, this is what you want to do. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes. This is it. All right, let's open up the computer and let's see what you have to study, for how many years you have to study to reach your goal. And this is how much it's going to cost. And she's like, okay. We looked it up. Me and my husband, we sat down. Captain Puerto Rico, you know. We sat down.
Shout out to Captain Puerto Rico, by the way. And his promotion. Congratulations, Captain Puerto Rico.
Woo-hoo. So we looked it up, and she's like, okay, I got this. I can do this. She doesn't just want, with her master's, she can go in the fields by herself, right? Yes. With a bachelor's, she has to be under somebody's with her master's.
Yeah.
With a master's, she can go in the field by herself. So she said she wants a master's. Check this out. She wants to get her doctorates so that she could be Dr. Arroyo. And
Dr.
husband.
Nene.
And husband.
What? Oh, yeah. Both?
No, she wants to be Dr. Arroyo whenever they introduce her, and her husband.
And husband, yeah. The husband, and it's like, will he have to trail behind her? You know? Like,
probably.
and this is my husband.
Yeah, holding her big head.
Yeah, get the car, please, husband. You know, like.
Oh, she is a piece of work. She is hilarious.
Well,
She is really, really funny.
I'm confident. I can't wait to someday chat with Dr. Arroyo.
Yes,
I'll call her Dr. Nene, but
Dr. Nene.
but just to have her talk, you know, because and I totally see it. Like I
Yeah.
totally see her like like at at the Norfolk Zoo or something. Like I can see her
Oh,
like
oh yeah.
like having this whole thing with like this is the reptile exhibit and blah blah blah, doing all that kind of stuff.
Yes. We
And
want to
then
totally take her to have you heard of the reptile zoo here in Los Angeles?
I've heard of it. I've also there's a really good zoo. There's good zoos all over the place. But yeah,
Yes.
that's has she been to that? Has she visited?
No, but that's one place like for sure we're gonna go. We have to go. And we want to
Absolutely.
do, yeah, she gets to feed the snake and everything.
But no reptiles in mom's house.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Are you
Because,
excited about the movie? Oh, go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, because I did someone's a hamster and then
Oh, yeah.
hamster and a snake,
No.
like the circle of life.
Yes. That. Ooh, boy, that's setting up a problem.
I mean, yeah, no.
Like I could just hear Nene says, "Mom, I think there's something wrong with my pet snake. He's got a bulge in his neck." And then Aritza comes in going, "Mom, I can't find Hammy."
Exactly. Exactly. That's literally how it's gonna go.
Oh my goodness.
Your
I
snake ate that hamster.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Hammy, shout out to Hammy and Patrick or Patrika,
Yes.
who's
Yes.
because Patrick was the story behind that for everybody is that I had a pink starfish that I named Patrick. That's one of our classroom mascots. And at the end of the year, Patrick went to live with Aritza, and which I think is phenomenal. The photo shoot
Oh
that
my
she
gosh.
did, like with Hammy, it was her hamster stuffed animal, and the
Yes.
two of them became fast friends. They had a
Mm-hmm.
sleepover, and it was like, and she did like a professional magazine, like People magazine photo shoot
Yes.
with the two stuffed animals, with Patrick the starfish and Hammy. And then I later found out, as you know, since as the tabloids found out, Patrick was transitioned into
Yes.
a female starfish, and we were
Yes.
very supportive of Patricia, you know, and her pronouns, but like that was like the fact, like that whole thing was like,
This,
and she treated it like it was like celebrities. It's
yes.
like stuffed animals. They're just like us, like
Boas, they have the boas and bows and
the little
everything.
popcorn, or they're watching the movies. Like
Yes.
I got to find those pictures because I have them somewhere. But I was just blown away with how realistic and how like these, like it wasn't just like ha ha ha, look at this joke. It
No.
was professionally done. Uh,
Absolutely.
I think that's tremendous. You and I talked, we for a little bit, especially during the pandemic. You had homeschooled them.
Yes.
How did that go, and what were the differences that you saw, and did it give you a little bit, like, you have an educational experience, and of course definitely experience with a certain elementary school off of Pleasure House Road in Virginia Beach, Virginia. But what are some insights that you had, and what were some of the challenges you had homeschooling your very different but very wonderful daughters?
Okay. So one of my things where I thought I couldn't do it, number one. I was like, I
Mhm.
don't know what I'm getting myself into. The reason that I decided to do it was because Aritza's eyesight. So she couldn't be behind the screen for too long.
Yeah,
And the challenges with COVID was everything was online.
yeah,
So, and I told myself if I'm going to do it for one, I'm going to do it for the other. They basically, as Naisha for sure, basically taught herself that year. We did, I think it was like maybe an hour and a half of schooling a day. And that was like book schooling a day.
yeah.
All of the subjects. It was very easy, super easy. So easy that I kind of second guess myself
Like,
a
this is
lot of the
too easy.
time. It's
Yeah.
too easy. But then I spoke to another friend of mine who had done some homeschooling, and she said, no, actually, a lot of your life skills, you're learning through life skills.
Yeah.
As you do know, both of my girls have been cooking since they were like 5.
Mm-hmm.
About 4 or 5 years old, they both cook. So that's a life skill. Reading recipes, measuring, all of that stuff that counts as reading, math,
Yeah.
science, all of these different things that we do it on an everyday basis, so we don't really think about it.
Yeah.
So it was a good experience. It was definitely bonding time. My husband was gone in training, so it was definitely bonding time. I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was a great experience for both of the girls, as Naisha did not do as well as Aritza did. Now,
Okay.
as Naisha needs more of that social aspect,
Yeah.
she needs more people around her, kids her age. She
Yeah.
needs to be able to have interaction with people. She was extremely bored. And my daughter, as you know, she suffers from anxiety and depression. So that took a toll on her.
Yeah.
Whereas Aritza, she absolutely loved it. She was okay being at home with mommy because she is a mommy's girl. So she was
Yep.
perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So there's that. But other than that, I loved it. I loved it. And then, I had a great teacher to do the assessment at the end of the school year.
Yeah. Very handsome, very dashing teacher that was your official not mentor but official
Yeah,
evaluator. You
yeah.
mentioned a couple of things I thought that was pretty interesting, like the hands-on cooking thing. And one of the things I really wish we did more of, and it's tough in the structured school environment as it is now, but the learning life skills, mixing that with the curriculum. Like, it's one thing to
Yes.
tell everybody that, this measuring cup, this is 1.5 cup quarts, but to actually have kids make cookies and, okay, this recipe calls for you to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and for them to add, okay, well, you need to if you're going to make 2 sets of brownies, you're going to need 2 that kind of stuff. Do you feel like they learned more? And actually, a two-part question: do you think they learned more with the hands-on, or as much, versus the fundamentals, or was it kind of like hand in hand? But secondly, do you feel like the education system needs to be teaching more life skills incorporated into the curriculum?
Absolutely. I think they learned more hands-on,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to like cooking and baking. I would like, if it was a cup of something that they needed, I would take the cup away, and then I would have them figure it out. Let's use if there's a quarter, so how many quarters makes a cup? If there's
Ooh,
a half,
nice.
yeah, if there's a half, how many halves make a cup? So let's try to figure it out. If there's an eighth, how many eighths make a cup? Let's try to figure this out. Number one and number two, absolutely. Life skills are just that. Life skills are just that. We need that for the rest of our lives.
Hmm.
After these 12 years of school, if we do not continue education for the rest of our lives, we need these life skills. And
Yeah.
that's another thing that I have that I speak all the time with Andrea. Do you remember Andrea Dojo and Ani's mom?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So we always spoke about that. One thing that we talk about is little kid problems, right? So
Hmm.
little kid problems, it goes along with the life skills. If they're arguing, there's 2 kids arguing. We as parents, as adults, cannot always jump into it. We
Yeah.
need to step back. And if
You're
it's a
right.
little kid problem and they're not hurting themselves, they just cannot come to an agreement. They need to figure that out. It is part of the conflict resolutions that we keep stepping in, and we keep solving their tiny issues. And
Hmm.
because we keep solving their tiny issues, in the future, they're not going to know how to solve these things.
Absolutely.
They're not going to know this. So we've always called that a little kid problem. And whenever they will come to us with these little kid problems, we'll tell them, oh, we'll stop them. And we're like, is that a little kid problem? Are you guys bleeding? Are you guys like
Yeah.
dying? Are you guys hurt? No? Okay, you guys can go handle that. And I think that's why Ani and Aritza were so close, because they got
Yeah.
to figure it out on their own. There's another type of life skills. Mommy and daddy are not going to be there all the time.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to solve the problems for you. You have to do this on your own.
That's tremendous because, and I noticed when my first year back in the classroom after the lock, because I taught virtually for a year, and my first year back in the classroom, I actually was fourth grade at a different school, and so many of the kids were they almost were very helpless. Like they lacked a lot of problem solving skills and coping skills. And at first, I just thought, I was like dismissive, like, oh, it's just they're learning to be back. But then I started thinking, I started to see this before COVID too, that there were a lot more students that they didn't have they didn't have the skills of problem solving. And I don't mean like 1+1 = 2, but I mean more like you were talking about, like the social issues. And I realized that a lot of that was they either the problems were being solved for them, or there was a much more negative way that they were being resolved or whatever. And there wasn't they didn't learn how to resolve their issues. And you compound that with so many kids being online with that online mentality. I wonder if we've really lost that's a portion of life skills and lessons that they have that a lot of kids are not getting anymore.
Absolutely. We also have to think about the frustration that the parents have been going through.
Yeah.
Just, you can't do it. Just give it to me. I'll do it real quick. You can't open that applesauce anymore. Just give it. I'll open it. Because they're frustrated. Some parents, I only have 2 children. There's some parents with 5 kids at home.
Yeah.
And it's easier to just open 5 things at one time and just give it to them. Instead
That's
of
5 problems you avoid. Yeah.
Exactly. 5 whinings you don't have to hear. You can't open a Capri Sun. Let me just open 5 of them at one time and hear. Where me, I'm like, oh, honey, we have one of those opener thingies where you better go to that drawer and get it. You know where that's at. Because, and I've always told them, I'm like, mommy is here to assist you, but I am not your slave. You guys figure it out. I am your last resort. And we have a great relationship. As I am as Nisha's best friend. Yes. Yes.
Like, how important is communicating that point though to him? Because I wonder if some parents, some people, like his teachers too, like you tell them something, but you don't explain why it's this way. And you've always struck me as somebody that you're not going to do it for them, but you're going to explain why they need to learn how to do it.
I think that also starts at a very early age.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was also a mother that I'm not a baby holder. I love babies, but I'm not one to always hold the baby. That's just not me. And then I kind of had like that mommy guilt early on, like, maybe I should have that. Maybe I should be holding them. It's just not in me.
Yeah.
So, my kids learned how to crawl very fast. They learned how to walk very fast. And I always say, well, maybe it's because I didn't hold them enough. But we have a great bond. We have a great relationship. As Nisha tells me everything. If she finds a handsome boy, if a boy who's handsome, oh my gosh, we're there now.
Who's willing to walk behind her when she's a doctor and
right. Aritza tells me everything. But it's that type of relationship we've had. I've always been very structured. Well, you know that. I've always been very structured. And I've tried to instill that in the girls. So I think, I don't know, maybe it was that, maybe it was, I've just always been myself, I think. So the expectations have always been there, but I'm also very lenient. They get to talk to me about everything.
Yeah. Well, in relationship and communication is important. Like
communication for sure.
Do you like, do you feel like that the term structured sometimes gets a bad rap?
Absolutely. I think structure gets you think structure and you think militant.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is the same. I think structure is, you can be structure and kind of be like loosey-goosey with your structure.
Yeah.
It's just like a guideline, but it doesn't have to be the same exact way. I have structure, like we pick out are closed on Sunday for the week, right?
Yeah.
It's a 4-day week this week is a 4-day week. I've told her pick out like 6 outfits. And then you have a choice. You know, you don't
Nice.
have to
Yeah.
wear every single one, but then you have a choice. If you don't feel like wearing this one, you have another one.
But
So that's structured, but it's kind of like a
and they see
extra.
the importance of having the structure, but you also they have that flexibility too. You know,
Absolutely.
she might decide on Thursday, you know what? No, I'd rather wear the polka dot rather than the stripes or something.
And
And they have that.
it cuts down on time in the morning.
Yeah.
There cuts down on time. It actually you could see visually what you have, and you're not a hot mess.
Now, Miss Debbie would do that for me. Like she'd have my shirts ready to go. She's a saint. You know, let's be
I
honest.
love Miss
Debbie's a
Debbie. I
saint.
love Miss
She
Debbie.
shout out to Miss Debbie. She's
Mm-hmm.
best in the world. Salt of the earth, but she would do my shirts for me. She would do the starch and all that, like the spray and starch, whatever. She'd have my shirts for the week up. I always knew which one she really wanted me to wear, like the first day, because that was the one closest to the door. You know, like that was the one she would hang
Grab
up
and
by the
go.
door. Like I would see first, you know. But I had options, you know, and plus she doesn't know if like maybe there's a special wear purple today for the hearts of
Exactly.
kids with hearts and you know that kind of stuff.
Yes,
And
yes.
you know there was different stuff like that. But she always had her favorite shirts of mine, and I always noticed the shirts she didn't really like they never really made it out of the closet. They were always kind of in the back behind like a sweatshirt or something. But
Yeah.
but I had those options, and you know that's
Yes.
I mean, let's be honest. I think I might be her kid sometimes, but it's good. Our relationship works. You know, we're both kids at heart,
Absolutely.
as you know, and that kind of thing. But I
Yes.
think it's important. I do think structure gets a bad rap because people when you say structure, people think clipboard, this, and this without no. But you need structure in your own life, and if you haven't seen examples or modeling of structure when you're growing up, when you get out into the real world and you have to provide that structure for yourself, it creates that discipline in you where you know, yeah, I'm on my own, but I know that I've got to buy groceries for the week, not just groceries for tomorrow. You know, I've got to make sure I've got stuff planned out, and I think that's another one of those life skills that kids need. Do you feel like sometimes parents and adults sometimes they're at one or other end of the spectrum with kids, like they're either almost to the point of neglect
Yeah.
where they're letting the kids kind of run things and they're
Yeah.
almost like a servant. And then there's that, but it's almost like that it might be a response to the other side of the spectrum where there may have been parents that were too strict or too restrictive and very judgy and very like, no, you're doing it this way and this is how it's done without that communication. Do you see that spectrum sometimes?
I do. I see that spectrum a lot. I also see that the spectrum of parents who do everything for their kids because another parent is missing. Like
Yeah.
one like single parent home.
Yeah.
So they kind of want to fill in that gap. They don't want to be the strict parent. They want to be the fun parent.
Yeah.
So they do everything. And then they're burnt out.
Yeah.
Then
It's
they're
it,
burnt out.
it's too much. When you got to open 5 different jars of applesauce or whatever,
Yeah,
or 5
absolutely.
Capri Suns. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, so,
Yeah. No, but yeah, I see it a lot, especially in this military lifestyle that we have.
yeah. It,
Especially.
how has military like you know we place a big emphasis at Hermitage and you know the you know because Virginia Beach is a very high military area. We place a lot of emphasis on the military child. What do you and that's something because as speaking as a military brat myself, you know, as a military brat myself, I had to experience a lot of a different growing up because you're moving around all that kind of stuff. How has the military lifestyle affected your daughters, and how have you had to adjust? And what were some of the things you've had to do as a military mom?
So, my biggest thing has been dealing with anxiety. Anxiety from asthmatia, anxiety from now Maritza. This move was really big for her, the one from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Yeah.
Because I'm from the East Coast. I used to go to Jersey every other weekend,
Yep.
at least every month, or if not, my family was in Virginia visiting. So that one was hard for her. She is now trying to climb into our bed all the
Oh,
time. That one was big, and then as a parent, once your kid's anxiety level is up high, yours is.
yeah.
So that is, I think, my biggest stressor. It's not daddy not being home. I think they can handle that. It's not a lot of things. It's that. And daddy is really good with he's in the Coast Guard, it's a little bit different, but he's really good with, like, if the girls have a special day or something, he will try his hardest to be here.
That's
He's
good.
done like a lot of daddy daughter like luncheons and stuff like that, and he tries every single time to be there. So that's good. But the
Well, he is
and
Captain Puerto
depression.
Rico, though. I mean, he was formed in a lab in the 1940s with the special
Exactly.
super soldier serum.
Exactly. Seriously, that's how it is.
How I remember too. One of the things that one of the traumas that Nene has dealt with over the past was, and it was one of those things that manifested itself in a way that I wasn't expecting. When we had our school counselor came in to share a video about you can do anything no matter what's holding you back, and usually during that time, and this affected me because after this moment, I never left the room when the school counselor was in there, because not that I didn't trust them, but I needed to, because I felt like I knew the kids better than anybody. And if
Absolutely.
something went down, I would probably be the best person to manage that situation. And
Hmm.
I had left the room, and I came back and I found out that Nene was in the library because of the video that was shown. Do you mind us talking a little bit
No,
about
no,
that?
no. We're
And
very open.
yeah, so to explain to everybody, the video in good intentions, and it was one of those things where, like, had I explained to the counselor at the time Nene's aversion to this, it would have gone differently. But the video itself was of a ballerina who was two ballerinas that were missing appendages. But it was one of those, it was to demonstrate that regardless of nothing can hold you back from your dream. It was one of those things where it was like, you know, hey, you can accomplish anything. And it was supposed to be inspirational, but
Yes.
and in a lot of situations that could work. But Nene had a traumatic event in her life when she was younger that this brought back some feelings. So explain a little bit of that, and kind of, and where she is with that now, and how that manifests and how she deals with that.
So Asnisha is she's diagnosed with anxiety and depression. When she was 2 years old, she had her tonsils and adenoids removed, which is a very common procedure.
Yeah.
We did not know she had anxiety because she was two, and her
Yeah.
body created her body created a stress ulcer in the bottom part of her stomach.
Oh.
That's really what happened. And 10 days after her surgery, she started projectile vomiting blood.
Oh.
And it was all over. Like, I mean, all over. So we rushed her to the hospital. And when we got there, she had already started becoming yellow because she had thrown up so much blood.
Oh.
And she started swelling up. When they took her to the back, they thought it was just her tonsils that had just gotten a cut or something, and it had opened up or whatever. So they took her back, and they were just going to do that little burning. I don't know the technical terms. They're just going to
Yeah,
like
little bit. Yeah.
catheterize, no, carterize, whatever.
Yeah, cauterize. Yeah.
Yes, the tonsil where it was bleeding, what they thought
Yeah.
was causing the blood. And they come back with a piece of paper for me and my husband. We're the only ones there. It was like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So we had to sign for a blood transfusion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they went in with the little camera. They saw that it was an ulcer and it was still bleeding. So when they took her back. They kept her back there. 2 bags of blood later, She was still swollen and yellow, and we had to stay there. It was actually Memorial Day weekend,
Oh wow.
11 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So ever since then, she's had other medical issues, but sorry. So I just
But
got a
that
text message. So
but
sorry.
that this is in itself an inspirational story too. I mean, because
Absolutely.
look at her now. Look at the future Dr. Nene at
Yes.
this point.
Absolutely. There was a little boy. So because of that, she couldn't, every time she would walk into like any store, she almost used to, she had like a tick. She would look at the entire room and kind of see if there was anyone with like a missing limb or something wrong with them. And we had no idea. So she was in the first grade. I will never forget Miss Baraki's class. She was first grade. It was on field day, and they were showing a picture of cleft lip palate. It was for Operation Smiles.
Yeah.
And they showed the picture, and she couldn't take it. She got up, she screamed, and she fainted. And then rushed her to the hospital. And that's when my husband was like, "No, I think this is a little bit more." And that's when she was diagnosed. Because I was just worried about, oh my gosh, my kid fainted. My husband was
Yeah.
like, "No, I think this is a little bit more than that." And that's when we figured out, there's something else. This isn't just okay. She wouldn't sleep upstairs by herself, not even naps or anything.
Mm.
It was little tiny signs of
Yeah.
always consistently there. But because she was my first child, there were things that I wouldn't have picked up on.
Yeah, exactly. Your first, it's kind of, I mean, nobody has a handbook,
Exactly.
and every kid is so different. And I always, it's funny too, because I always self-diagnose myself and think about my childhood, and oh, that's why I feel this way, or oh, that's why I
Yeah.
don't like this, or
Yeah.
why I like, and it's like, I'm sure your first instincts when you find out your daughter's passed out on a field day, you're probably thinking heat, exhaustion. You're going through all the physical thoughts
Well,
first.
I have fainting spells. So I'm like, great, she got it from me. That's the first thing I thought. Great, she got it from me. But actually, I was diagnosed after she was diagnosed. And
Mm-hmm.
I faint once my anxiety have reached an entire peak, once my body cannot take it anymore, my anxiety, and then I kind of have to reset my body.
Mm-hmm.
So mine is anxiety related, but when I was going through it, because I started fainting at 7, which is the same exact age that Asnaisha was when
Mm-hmm.
she fainted. So the science wasn't the same. The medical was not the same. So no
Yeah.
one ever detected it. It took me being in my 30s to be able to find it.
Well, I also do a podcast on mental health, and it's interesting. Everybody I've talked to, and they obviously, the Educators podcast and the mental health podcast, they bleed together, because we talk
Absolutely.
about the education on the mental health podcast, and Educators podcast we talk about mental health, and a lot of my guests on the mental health podcast talk about how the difference between today versus even like 20 years ago, the approach to mental health and what we know now. Like, you think about stuff now that we identify as autism, or we identify as a specific thing, where a mental disorder or neurodivergence, whereas 50 years ago it was, oh, that person's crazy, let's put leeches on them, or or they got a frog in their brain, or that kind of
Yes,
stuff. It's
absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely. I've always been very open with the mental health, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want Asnaisha to think that she's different. No, she's
Mm-hmm.
very much the same as everyone else. We all have some type of
Yeah.
anxiety in us. It's just things that happen. It's just life. We just
Exactly.
now know that more of us have it than not.
Yeah.
We can actually talk about it.
Exactly. It's kind of like, I mean, I'm not going to be playing in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like, if I trained every day for the next 2 years, I'm still never going to be as good as Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
But then again, there's things that I'm better than Michael Jordan at. And that's not a slam on him. And it's one of those things, and it's the same thing, I think, with how different we are. And I love the term neurodivergent rather than, I even like it better than gifted, because gifted implies that they're better than someone else, because I think we
Yeah.
all do have gifts. And I've talked to a couple folks about like what really is gifted, because I've had one of my best friends. He lives in the West Coast. He shout out to Brian Gallagher. This guy, he dropped out of high school because he was failing, and there was a lot of stuff going on. He was been told he's stupid, and even when he talks, like he comes across kind of like he kind of talks like this, and everybody, what's going on? Great guy. He's actually very smart, and he's shirt off his back, very kind guy. But teachers would label him dumb because he wasn't getting the school. He wasn't interested in school, and he was struggling with a lot of the stuff that they were saying you need to know to be successful, which that's another topic I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Is, because that I think needs some major overhaul. But this guy could tell you exactly what was wrong with your car just by hearing the sound it makes when you turn it on. Like he has this genius about him when it comes to mechanics. And it's like he could be a mechanical engineer. That's very like intelligent mechanical engineer. So it wasn't an intelligence thing, and that's the thing. It's like water always seeks its own level. I carry myself as a very intelligent person. No, but what I'm saying is like he and I are very, very different. Like I couldn't tell you. I would be like, is that the flux capacitor? I couldn't tell you what was wrong with my car. I would just take it to the shop. I was like, that's why I take it to the shop. But he could tell. But like then if I try to explain Minecraft to him, or I try to explain a computer to him, he kind of glosses over a little bit too, that kind of same thing. But very kind guy. But I always felt like he was an example of the education system failing him.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
Like, do you see, and this is a great lead into that whole thing, is do you feel like it kind of goes with what kind of life skills we need to be teaching? Do you feel what changes would you like to see in the way that, and I'm not saying that we're not already heading that way, maybe we are, but what changes would you like to see in the education system? And also with that, it's a deeper question, because I've asked this of educators. What should be the purpose of education?
Purpose of education for me, and I've said this to my girlfriends, is to prepare our children for life. It's not just to prepare them to go to college.
Yeah.
This is not it. It is to prepare them for life. A lot of things that is being taught, they are not using. They won't use. I understand, like, reading, writing, fundamental. Seriously, like we need this 100%. But a lot of things that they teach, we don't need, and a lot of things are not being taught until, like you said that I think earlier, writing full sentences correctly.
Yeah,
correctly is the magic word there, because they're writing it paragraphs. Are they writing it correctly? Not really.
Especially now with text speak, a lot of them are used to this kind of communication.
Exactly.
I've had stuff turned in where it was like LOL. They're using
you are. Yes, I have to get on Aritza because she's my techie child. Aritza a lot. As Naisha would be like, she's the one that corrects me because my education isn't that good. My education, I come from inner city, so my education, the system failed me. My brother, and my sister.
I think it failed a lot of people.
Yeah, really, truly did. It depends. We were raised at and stuff like that. My parents tried as much as they could, but my mom, they're immigrants. They came from Puerto Rico. My mom still doesn't even speak the language. Hardly. We were their translators. But
boy, can she cook. I'm telling you. Oh, man. Woo!
That's one thing that we should always know. And also, I think one thing that I would love to see, especially in high school, is almost set a game plan for your life.
Yes. Like as Nisha wants to be a what, not marine biologist. What is it?
Zoo, wildlife biologist.
Wildlife biologist. Like in a lot of countries, like especially like the more Nordic countries, they do this where, you're 14, 15, you may or may not know what you want to be, but your education path now becomes like, you don't have to take these certain classes that are not going to perpetuate you towards your goal. She can start focusing on biology oriented classes. Oh, by the
Exactly.
way, a jet. Did you miss the Jets,
I
by the
heard
way?
it. I heard it.
But like, she could start taking classes that are focused on biology,
Yes.
focused like specifically on those. Now, granted, you can take electives, but I almost feel like now, almost the way that at colleges when you select a degree path,
Yeah.
I almost feel like that's too late. Like, that should start at that post middle school, almost around middle school. Middle
Yeah.
school should almost be that, okay, figuring out what you want to do. And you may choose,
Yes.
reptilian biology, what have you, or, and you might have dreams of Jurassic Park, but then like, you might get to your senior year and decide, nah, I actually want to try this. And I think that's important because, and don't get me started, we could do a whole conversation about college and how that may not necessarily be everybody's path. In fact,
Yeah.
more often than not, that might be just putting unnecessary debt on people when they really don't need it. But do you feel like there should be more of those kind of opportunities in high school?
100%. 100%. As Nation right now did advanced science this
Yeah.
year because there's a lot of different advanced classes that teachers really did recommend her for, but she was English reading was one of
Yeah.
them, which she should have totally, because it was too easy for her. But she wanted to focus on science, and she did advanced science, and they talked about like reptiles and what is it called, like plant. What is that
Yeah.
called? What is it called?
Botany, kind of like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and we went, actually, it was a really cool field trip. We went to the safari. They gave us like backstage passes almost. We
Oh,
went
cool.
back there. We learned about like all of these different plants. I was the chaperone, of course, mom.
Yeah, best chaperone ever, though.
Kids loved me.
Right?
But it was like amazing. And this is her path. This is what she wanted to do. Safari, that was perfect for her. So this right here, oh, and she's also taking advanced Spanish, which
Bueno.
is, yes. So she is very well, because she said to go, in the wildlife biology, she needs to know Spanish very well because
Yeah.
Central America and all of this stuff. And I said, correct. So you have to make sure you know how to read it, write it, all of it.
Yeah.
Not just speak it. We need to know all of it. So she is taking the right steps. I'm hoping that when we move, there's some type of options where she can keep doing the advanced sciences, the advanced reading, writing, forget what it's called, language arts,
Yeah.
the advanced Spanish, because those three right there are very major for her future, what she wants to do. So she keeps going in this path. Yeah, she'll need some other ones, but those three right there are very major. I think that if the school systems continue to let children elect what they want,
Yeah.
I think we'll be on a really good path.
Yeah, I almost feel like they need more of that.
Absolutely.
Like by ninth grade, you should already have like, the not just electives, but like a whole career path kind of sort of structured for you. Like, and I, from my understanding, the Bay Area is got a lot of that. You're near Silicon Valley, you're near a lot of and I think there definitely be those opportunities for it. It'd be really cool to follow Dr. Nene's progress with that.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
I do agree with you. I think that there needs to also, but I also feel like, and this is my question to you, is in addition to those career paths, what are some life skills that we should be taught in school that maybe aren't getting the attention or are flat out not even being taught at all that you wish were?
ASL, American Sign Language. Why are we making it so hard for people who cannot speak?
Yeah.
Or who cannot hear? I'm sorry. Why are we making it so hard? They're Americans. Why are we? I
Yeah,
do not understand.
it's a language just like anything else, but more so they. It's not like they can just learn English and then be
It's
able to
not a choice.
communicate.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not a
Exactly.
choice.
Exactly. I am teaching myself. I just had a full conversation with one of Esnatia's friends' parents. And Esnatia was fully impressed. And I was like, thank you.
Oh, nice, nice, nice. I got to do it right because this is thank you. But
Yes.
in Italian, that means something
Yes, that
completely
is the
different. So I got
opposite.
to make sure I get it right. Like this thing. Whoa, oh,
Whoa, what's
that's
that?
not
That
what I
was
meant.
not it. Yes, but American Sign Language is one of them. They should be teaching that in elementary. We should totally be incorporating that
Hmm.
20 minutes a day, a few words, alphabet. When we teach the alphabet, why not teach both of them together?
At least the fundamentals. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. A, what is it? A, B. I know how to say phrases more than that.
I gotta
C.
get back on that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite female wrestlers. I'm into pro wrestling. I'm sorry, but one of my
Same.
favorite female
We like them.
wrestlers, Chris Statlander. She just won the TBS championship in AEW, and she signs when she comes out,
I
and
love that.
she does like when she comes out for her entrance, she'll do like a "I'm more than a woman," or she'll do some kind of like whatever her promo is. She'll do sign language, and it's getting people to, and it's getting people to pay attention to that more.
Yes, absolutely. Do you know that sign language in English and sign language in Spanish are completely different?
Really.
Yes, it is not the same.
Well, when someone's going like this, you better know you're like,
I'm like, I'm
oh
so
no,
sorry. I don't know.
I, this is gonna be kind of a, this is gonna show. I apologize for the stupidity of what I'm about to say, but do you think that there's accents in sign language? Like,
There isn't, but there's different ways to speak. So different people, I'm guessing, I wouldn't say accents, but there's different, maybe it might be an
dialect or
accent or a dialect almost,
yeah,
because if you come from like a different region of the country, I'm guessing they say
yeah,
things differently. Almost
yeah,
like a slang. It's almost like a slang.
yeah. There you go. That's probably
Yeah.
more like it. Like, if you're doing sign language from Jersey, there's going to be
We-
different slang than
Yeah, we
Boston
might.
or left coast.
Ah, isn't that crazy? Or like East Coast, West Coast. What is it?
Sign language.
Yes, isn't that
We're gonna
crazy?
we're gonna have the ASL version of the Biggie Tupac feud with like.
That's funny.
Oh my goodness, that'd be good stuff. What are some other life skills? I mean, I think that's tremendous. I didn't even think about that, but that's tremendous now.
Yeah.
About teaching ASL. What are some other things you feel that they should teach or focus more on in high school, in the school age of children going forward?
I think that they should bring back like things that we learned growing up. What is it called? Wood shop.
Yes,
The other one, the auto shop, wood shop, auto shop.
wood
These
shop.
skills, yeah, these skills, the generation after us, they don't know how to do that.
Yeah, you should know how to change your car, change oil in your car, or
Change
how
your
to change your
tire,
tire.
absolutely. And women should also culinary skills. These are things that they should know. We should know. These younger children, they should know how to sew. Like you need to, if you can hem something,
Yep.
hemming
I
something, it's good.
and I maybe not even just the women. Like I remember
Yeah,
I loved home ec, but home ec was like a
home ec.
semester, and it wasn't very structured, and what I made was terrible. But if I imagine your mom teaching a home ec class, and the kids bringing home Puerto Rican rice or something like
Yeah.
and just like, oh, right.
Yes.
I do think cooking. I think that's a life skill. Sewing. I mean,
Yes.
imagine how much money
Even
kids.
ironing.
Oh my, ironing.
Even ironing. People don't know how to iron nowadays.
Well. Do you think the kids nowadays would have the patience to iron?
No, because we're not giving them.
All right, we're going to take a quick break from solving all of the world's problems to tell you about a good friend of mine and a service she's offering. Are you tired of feeling like your dream financial future is out of reach? Are you struggling with overwhelming debt, trying to pay off your home early, or simply wanting to give more? Well, my good friend Vanessa Rutter Jackson is here to help. An educator and military veteran, Vanessa is here to guide you through the confusion and make your dream financial future a reality. With her certified financial coaching services, she'll help you create a personalized plan that sets you up to win with money. As an educator and a mother of two, Vanessa understands the challenges of scraping by and stretching paychecks. She's been there, and she knows how to navigate the financial landscape to help you thrive. Don't let financial stress hold you back any longer. Take the first step towards financial freedom today with Rutter Jackson Financial Coaching. Reach out to Vanessa today for a free 45-minute consultation at varutter34@gmail.com or go to tinyurl.com/RJ-money-coach. That's varutter34@gmail.com or tinyurl.com/RJ-money-coach. Remember, it's never too late to take control of your finances and achieve your dreams. Start your journey to financial freedom with Rutter Jackson Financial Coaching today. All right, now let's get back to solving the world's problems with the most charming host on the interwebs. I always found that the PTA relationship with the school, a lot of times that really can make or break the climate of the school. What were some of the awesome memories and maybe some of the challenges that you found when you were involvement with the PTA?
So my first involvement with the PTA, I wasn't a board member. And Tasha, which I love, she was like, "You should be a part of the PTA." And she just dragged me right on in. But
By the way,
Kaylee
McReynolds went to prom again. So now, again, gray hair all over the place. I can't believe that.
She's absolutely stunning. She's absolutely stunning.
I'm just sitting here like this old man time. I better put a tennis ball on my cane at this point. You know what I mean? It's like these kids got to stop growing up. They need to stay third and fourth graders. That's just stay. But I'm sorry. But go ahead. Tasha said join the PTA.
Yes. So she, basically like reeled me in. I absolutely love the PTA, and I think it started as a VP. And it was great from the jump. I think the only sucky part of the PTA was that COVID shut down the year I was president.
Good Lord. If we didn't have COVID and you were running things, that's the stuff that we'd be doing.
But we were like in the middle of planning the color run.
Yeah.
And it got shut down.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, they did it the year after that, but I was homeschooling.
Yeah.
So that was like my biggest downfall. I love that. I think Hermitage was like my second home. I loved that the school was like 700 plus kids.
Yeah.
And you walked in there and the teachers knew all the students and the students knew all the teachers. One of the biggest things that I absolutely loved that I brought into the school, and I don't know if it's still there, was the boots on campus where we had the military volunteers.
We also had the watchdogs.
The watchdogs were amazing, but I had the military volunteers go once a week.
Yes.
And just have them open the door for the children, and just having that military presence at that school was absolutely amazing. Amazing for the students. Amazing to see militaries at the school, just so that the kids who don't have both parents at home all the time see that there's still military that cares.
Yeah.
They also did, the year that I was president, they did the Christmas thing. Do you remember, for all of the military children?
Vaguely.
They made like the snow globe with the kids' picture inside. Yeah. And I just thought, being military spouse and then being able for the military to actually come into the school and do something for the military children. And it was just It was just amazing. It was for all of the military children who had deployed parents. That's who they did it for. So, that was really sweet. And to be able to pull off so many things that those 2 years that I was on that board, it was really cool.
The trunk or treats were awesome.
Oh, trunk or treat. Those are so.
Trunk or treat was our Super Bowl, I think, almost.
Oh
or
my God.
maybe not Super Bowl, but that was like his robotics. We were there with the arcades, and you had the trunk or the amazing trunk and treat stuff that they would have, and then the meal, the food was so good.
You had the chili cook-off.
Oh, the chili cook-off. Good Lord.
Yes, actually, so I'm the PTA president here this year.
Of course.
But not the same. We were only allowed to do 2 big fundraisers over there, and there were all these different programs at the school that also brought in money. Over here, it's not like that. The PTA, everything that the school gets is funded by the PTA only.
Interesting.
Completely baffled.
How important is the relationship with the how important is the relation of the PTA with the administration, and what are some of the, I hate to say politics, but because in my opinion the PTA should be like, hey, we're doing this because we, they should, if I was an administrator, I would be like, what do you need? PTA,
run with it.
You know me, because I mean, my class, as my room mom, how my classroom, I was like, hey,
do what
Linda Arroyo has an idea, we're doing it, because there's no bad ideas with Miss Arroyo. That was one of my philosophies, and I feel like that should be that way in schools. Granted, we're not going to be like, okay, hey everybody, we're going to launch rockets or something. There's safety, but barring safety concerns, I feel like a PTA should pretty much, especially if they're going to be raising most of the money for it, I would run with it. What are some of the what are some of the obstacles / important things to remember when your PTA interacting with the administration? Would you say?
I think the open relationship is absolutely important. I think that if anybody is planning on being on a PTA, first things first, talk to your principal, talk to all of the administration, get on a first name basis. I just think for sure, exchange cell phone numbers. Communication is key. I think the principal that I had over there, Angie, she was very open to our ideas. We just have to make sure that it was okay through the superintendent and their stuff. Here, I have to jump through a lot of hoops.
Is it a lot more?
A lot of rules. Even so we did a trunk or treat because I was like, hey, let's do a trunk or treat. And they were like, what? And I was like, you guys have never done a trunk or treat? Come on, let's follow. Let's do this.
What is trunk or treat? Was that kind of the?
Yeah, they're like a trunk or treat, and I was like, yeah, let's do a trunk or treat. So it was successful, of course. It was great, and I did a chili cook-off too. So we were like, let's do it. It wasn't as successful as I know they're going to be next year because it was the first one.
Yeah.
But we had to jump through a lot of hoops. The administration here wasn't as open as the one there. So it was like pulling teeth just to get an okay for a lot of things here. A lot of things. I think you need to be on board as an administration for the PTA. A PTA also, you only need 3 positions to be open. You need 3 positions filled to have a PTA. So I just want you to know that it is president, secretary, and treasurer. After those 3 are filled, you have a PTA. But as a parent and as member of a PTA, the more PTA members you have, the better it is.
Yeah.
More people, if you're on the PTA, pull your weight. It just makes it a lot easier. And as a PTA member,
too.
Yes. Smile. Just smile. Do not form cliques. like little cliques. Do not
Yeah.
do that. I don't think we've ever done that. I think I am a smiley person. I am a very happy person.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why. But I smile at everybody. Smile at everybody. Make friends. The happier you are, the more inviting you are,
Hmm.
the nicer your PTA will be.
Well, we were very lucky because we had you, Miss McReynolds, Miss
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
We had very kid positive, like, and teacher positive, but which is, I think that sometimes is forgotten, is
Yes.
you're very like climate positive people
Yeah.
and fun too. Like you had great, like the ideas were great. It was never like nothing was half done. Like, and
Agreed.
if there were any like errors or things that didn't quite click, it wasn't because of poor planning. It
No.
was more okay. For next time, we'll know to do it differently.
We
But
just
like
kept the ball
yeah,
going.
and I have to contend that like the spirit of a school a lot of times is defined by its PTA as the climate, because while as bad as it can be with the teachers, and there's always going to be drama with the administration and teachers, and there's always going to be drama with all it, but I feel like if you have a solid PTA, a lot of things happen. One, there becomes a better communication between the parents and the teachers. There builds
Yes.
a trust. I found that I have, like, granted, I don't want to do parent teacher conferences during a function. I always want to separate and have a sit down, but I feel like that allows the teachers and the parents to truly build trust.
Yeah.
That may not be there if it was a very sterile, like, parents only pick up their kids or drop them off or come in for conferences, and teachers only see them when there's a problem. It was to build those relations. I mean, to see Mr. Burden goofing up on the stage dancing to Gangnam Style. I
In
mean,
a tutu.
in
In
a
a
tutu.
tutu.
Exactly. That becomes, well, it humanizes. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's Mr. Burden, or like,
Absolutely.
seeing somebody, dressing up in a bunny, like, bunny suit, or dressing up in this or doing that or having those
Yes.
interactions. You humanize each other,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
I found that's helped with when I do make that call or have that conversation. But hey, we need to work on so and so. These are some things that we need to improve on with math, or this is where your child is. Even the parents that may have otherwise been defensive, they know oh, this is Mr. Burden saying this, or
This
this
is
is
coming from
Mrs.
a good place. This
Yeah,
is not coming from like a negative place. I completely understand that.
it builds trust.
It
Exactly.
builds trust 100%. And also, as a parent, have had you as a teacher for my child before.
Well,
um, it's also in the delivery.
yes.
You've never come across as well, this is how she is. So, she's not giving her assignments. She's a lazy student. I
That
don't
always
think you would.
bothers me, the lazy thing,
Yeah, she might be having a rough day, or the child might be having a rough day, might be having a rough week. The child's a human. We are all tired. We all get tired. We all have mood swings. So cut them some slack.
Yeah. Cut the, like, I think sometimes, and again, kind of going back to the mental health thing, sometimes I think we forget that how I think we forget how we are with we're so focused on, you have to fit in this box to be a
Hmm.
good student, rather, and again, how crazy it, expecting these kids to stay in a desk for 8 hours, or expecting, to granted, I think we are getting to a point in a lot of situations now in education where the pendulum swung the other way, where we're almost
Too much.
allowing negative behaviors because we've lost the structure in cases. I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
a bit ridiculous to evacuate a room because one kid threw a desk. I mean, I think that's the other side. I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's a balance or a nuance between understanding an antecedent, but still letting the child know there are consequences for your actions. We understand it's because of this autism or this thing, but if our goal is to be educators, to to prepare them for success in life. They need to know that when you're an adult, you can't whip, if the cops pull you over, you can't whip out your IEP and say, hey, I ran that red light because I'm this, or you get in a fight somewhere. You can't just say, well, listen, officer, you can't arrest me because, that was just my that was my autism manifesting. Yeah, and I think we're setting these kids up for failure, and not even just kids with special needs, but even regular students. We're setting them up, kind of going back to you teaching them to do their stuff on their own. We're almost letting them know that when the school system adapts to your wants, not even your needs, but your wants, then they're getting a false sense of that's how society's going to be. And you and I know, when you get out in the real world and the world and the society kicks you in the teeth, then you're setting them up for some serious trauma, and that I don't think needs to be there.
I agree 100%. Now I have a question for you.
Yes.
How do you feel with the lack of responsibility that the parents are taking when the children behave in a certain way?
I think that's a huge issue, and I think that's part of the dynamic that really needs to be addressed in our society, let alone the education system. And I think our education system, both federally and locally, has taken an ostrich burying their head in the sand approach to it. I think, and I think it's sad because there's two dynamics, and I think the problem is we all fundamentally want the same thing. And I think it goes for even beyond education. I think this goes in politics. It goes in interpersonal relationships. Whether you're a Republican or Democrat, or you're a Celtics fan or a Knicks fan, I think we all fundamentally want the same thing, and we want what's best for our kids. We want what's best for our students, but we have so many different views, and it's such a convoluted philosophy of stuff. And when things get shut down, like there seems to be a push now to kind of ignore scientific investigation the way we teach it, where like I think it's important to teach kids that if you have a hypothesis but the data shows your hypothesis is wrong, that doesn't mean you're wrong. In fact, a good scientist would take the data and their conclusion would be correct, that their hypothesis is wrong. And where that relates to non-science things is, if you have a belief or you have a perspective or you have a thought or an idea about someone or something, but then you start to experience things and you start to see stuff that suggests that maybe your view of this person or this thing or this concept might not be completely correct, or maybe different, slightly different. I think sometimes people get so emotionally invested in that they don't allow themselves to have that nuanced thought. And I think when it comes to education, right now we've got parents, we've got teachers, we've got administrators, and we've got students, because they're part of this process. They all really want the same thing. They want what's best, but there's a lack of trust that I think is being exasperated by the way the system is currently handling issues. You have parents, you have parents that are very scared of their kid being taken advantage of. They have a lack of trust in the system. So whenever they're in an IEP meeting or whenever they're having any kind of conference, and a lot of this could also be from their trauma, their experience from when they were growing up, they have an extreme lack of trust with the system. So they get very defensive and they make assumptions that may not necessarily be true, but they immediately are on the defensive because they think you're coming for their kid, or they also might have some insecurities, maybe justified or not, about their own parenting, that they feel like they're being attacked. Like when they get the phone call that your kid, ate the paste, or, your kid threw a crayon across the room, that they're immediately thinking that that's a reflection on them. And instead of where, in my case, if I did that, I had a rough evening when I came home. but in some cases they feel defensive that's a reflection on them. And I want to ask you, like, I think that even, especially in single parent situations or in military situations where the husband or wife is deployed and the other spouse is home, they're having to do everything. And it's almost like they take that on as a judgment. Then you've got the teacher side where the teachers do put all their time and energy and effort into, I mean, let's be honest, we're not just teaching them math and language arts. We talked about before. Yeah, I love it because every year I'd get a couple kids every now and then would call me mom or they call me dad. And I always thought that was a tremendous compliment, but it's also proof that we are, when we're teachers, we are mom, we are dad, we are their doctor, their nurse, their psychologist, we're their game show host, we're their YouTube host, we are all these things for them during that time. And the teachers that are effective, the teachers that really give a fig, and those are teachers, and I think that's a majority of the teachers that are still in this profession, and those that have left because they've been burnt out trying to do this all the time. The teachers that really care, they put all this time and effort into really helping the kids grow and see things as they should, and having those dispute resolutions and learning those coping skills and learning all these things, and then to go home into an environment that doesn't value that. And not just home, but like a neighborhood or a community that doesn't value that, puts more value on how can you scam this person, or what scam can you run, or you got to look out for yourself and don't have compassion for others. And and we're going to use profanity and we're going to use slang in a negative, and we're going to treat people bad. That's got to be traumatic. And I do hold off on telling kids that that's wrong, because what I'm telling them is your family's wrong, and I don't want to do that. But it's frustrating for teachers to not get a sense of you're undoing everything that I'm killing myself to do, and they're not even my kid. On top of that, this is like throwing more gasoline into the fire. You have an administration, and I'm talking from principal up, and there's good principals, but there's good people, bad people, and I think it's less about that there's corrupt people. I think the system has become corrupt because of where it focuses its energy, because it focuses on test scores, on funding, on reducing expenses. It doesn't focus on the student growth, which I think that's what's much more important. We talked about the purpose of education is to grow the students, but we're not focused on that. We're focused on money. We're focused on promotions. We're focused on what's going to, and if you're a principal, even if you're the nicest, coolest principal on the planet, if your evaluation of success is depending on how much money you save, how few referrals are written, not necessarily how many kids are acting up, but how few referrals are written, which that's an important distinction, because you can have less referrals written if you throw them out, or if you bully your teachers into not writing them. That happens, and I have firsthand knowledge of that, is let alone second. But you have a system that doesn't value the right things, and doesn't highlight the true, in my opinion, the true success of a school. It doesn't highlight that. We can come up with ways to do that, but you have a mistrust between the administration and teachers, and you have a situation where we're such a litigious society that administrators are deathly afraid of parents suing, or having and the laws around IEPs and student needs. Granted, their purpose is good intentions, because in the past, in decades earlier, they would just, if a kid had a neurodivergent, they would just put them in one classroom with a bunch of other kids and just ignore them, or they were in a regular classroom with no support, and just they had to struggle, like it was almost like Lord of the Flies. They had to struggle to figure out to succeed. But I think we've gone the other way, where now we're we're expecting, and it's funny because I think I remember actually having this conversation with Nene and her class about the difference between equality and equity, and the difference between equality of opportunity versus equality of outcome. And I think sometimes we forget that not everybody's going to achieve the same level at the same pace at the same time, and that's okay. Like, and I think that's a problem that doesn't get addressed in the way we structure student needs. And so what happens is you have parents that are afraid of that don't trust the teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of parents that are afraid of their own kids for whatever situation they're in. You have an administration that's afraid of the parents, and they can't do anything to the kids because they're afraid of the parents. So the only people they can pick on are the teachers.
The teachers.
And so instead of, and then they're so worried about cost. So instead of hiring somebody to come in and be an extra support, or instead of providing, the support that's needed, they put all of that on the teachers. I mean, we teachers, we're doing not just that what I described earlier, that's teaching. That is the job. That's to be expected. That's the expectation when you walk into a classroom. You are those things. But what's happening is there's so much more now put on the plates of teachers that isn't our job, that we're having to do because of cutting costs. Now, some situations might be these are we can't afford it and we're dying, but our country is in the top 3 countries that spend on educational spending. Yet for some reason, the money is not getting to the schools. Makes you scratch your head, especially when a superintendent is spending $1,000 on 5 people at a lunch meeting. You start to wonder about that kind of stuff. But I'm not here to talk about that. But I think the problem is the struggle in trust. And again, PTA is great for alleviating a lot of that. But the way that the system is set up is a system of mistrust and toxicity. And the only way we're going to really break away from that is if we reevaluate our purpose in education, if we reevaluate what the purpose of a teacher, what the purpose of the education system is supposed to be, and not be so obsessed with the financial side of it. That's important because you need money, and you can't have a principal going, we're going to buy all these new things. You have to have a reasonable focus, but I feel like we really need to shift our focus on what education's about. We need to remember the education system is not supposed to be a profit center. Mm-hmm. Education system is a cost center, just like the DMV. It's a service, but our service it shouldn't be the difference between, if you have to go to private school to get a good education. Otherwise, you're going to get an okay education. It needs to be good no matter what. And you need to be competitive. And I fear that if we don't really address this, then we're going to go a different direction where we might have to be, there might be more charter schools or private schools, or there might be more, we might go to a more virtual setup where kids just get dumped off at a rec center and they have to find a place to plug in their Chromebook to attend their class. And, safety is another concern. And I think the safety, and you see this like, in the more and more in the news, we could debate guns versus mental health till the cows come home about when school shooters happen. But what really baffles me is how little is being talked about the other part of that. Is like with the Uvalde situation, is how the Uvalde situation still disgusts me to this day with a lot of the stuff that went down, how they were preventing parents from, a lot of that stuff. But in general, like we had a student in Newton. I don't know if you're familiar with the Newport News shooting, where there's a student, a 6-year-old student, brought a gun to school, told all his friends that he had a gun, he was going to shoot his teacher. The teacher and other faculty members and even other students went to the principal, told the administration about it. They said, there's nothing we can do. We can't search his backpack. They're like, well, we can't find him. Then they finally, after rolling their eyes, decide to search his backpack. He had taken it and put it in his desk. And so they didn't find it. So they're just like, there's nothing we can do. Well, later that afternoon, he pulls the gun out and shoots her in the classroom. She has critical condition. She goes to the hospital. There's all this thing, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, the child is not charged with anything. Now, the mom took responsibility initially, at least initially, she took responsibility. And so they are charging her with felony neglect and not improper storage of a firearm. Like there's things like that. And there's a whole mess of things that, and to her benefit, initially, before the lawyers got involved, she was very cooperative. But all of a sudden you start to see the insidiousness of this corrupt system rear its head. And again, it's not the people that are corrupt. It's the way the system is designed. Now, they are saying that first of all, the school board of Newport News, because she's suing the school system for her medical expenses and everything, because she was disabled from this. She had all these medical expenses, and they should have done something. It wasn't like it just happened out of the blue. They should have done something. The school board is now saying, because this happened on the job, that she is not allowed to sue them. This should be covered under workman's compensation. I am not lying. This is the truth. This is what they are arguing, that her being shot, it should be workman's compensation. Then, now that
that's not part of teaching.
You should not. It shouldn't be on you to wear a bulletproof vest to come to your classroom.
Exactly.
The second thing, this is the latest thing, and this is where I think the lawyers have gotten to the mom, the school board lawyers, and what's happening now is to me an example. And I'm sorry for me doing all this talking here, but
no, you're fine.
This is the extreme example of how messed up the situation is, because now the school board is taking the side of the parent to screw over the teacher, and to the point where now the parent is saying, well, it's not his fault because that was his autism manifesting itself. Now, I don't think those are her words. I will bet a box of Duck Donuts that the lawyers got in her ear, the school board's lawyers got in her ear and said, this is what you need to say. Because they're going to try to argue that the kid has special needs and this was his autism or whatever. I don't care if you have autism or not. Going back to our fundamental reason for education, your autism doesn't mean that you're immune from consequence.
Exactly.
If I'm autistic and I run a red light, I'm going to get a ticket regardless of my autism. So did I answer your question? I mean, I hate to that's kind of where I feel like we really need to come together. Do you see any of that from your perspective?
Absolutely. To me, whenever I get asked a question, I always say it's the lack of responsibility on the parent. It's very easy to point the finger. It's very easy to say, oh no, not my child.
Yes.
It's very hard to be like, to be apologetic. I'm so sorry. Let me take responsibility. If my kid takes her bike and hits your car, it is my responsibility. She is my child. Mm-hmm. I am so sorry. Let me get my checkbook. I'm so sorry. That's how it used to be back in the day. Oh. And I don't understand where we lost that.
You can tell the kids that don't know what a chancla is. Right? I mean, that's
the point that I was getting to. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a great video, by the way. You got to look out, Chancla or No Chancla. They did an interview with a bunch of mamacitas and or abuelas, and they asked, they would give a situation and they'd say chancla or no chancla, and they and this one lady, I think her name was Nora or something. every word, chancla. And you read in the comments like child breathes, Nora, chancla. But like they'd ask questions like if the kid changed the channel while they're watching the novellas, chancla.
That was my mom. Definitely my mom.
And have you go ahead?
My mom would do like anything. She thought we rolled our eyes. Like serious, it was pretty bad.
Don't you think back to me? You know that.
Don't you think back to me?
Have you seen the Halloween? I'll let you look for it, but the Halloween gimmick where the guy is Juan, I think his name's Juan David Lopez. He does a series of of Hispanic perspectives on a lot of pop culture, but he does this one. It's Halloween, and Mike Myers is coming. He's washing dishes in the kitchen, and Mike Myers comes in. You've seen it, and he goes, oh no, what have you done? He looks down, he's tracked mud into the kitchen, and then they turn behind, and there's the mom. She's got the mud mask on, and she's got the chancla, and it's like Mike Myers is scared of.
Yes, like we're not scared of Mike Myers.
Him. Yeah, it's like, and he goes to Mike Myers. He's like, "Protect me, save me." But that's the thing and one of my favorites images, memes when virtual teaching started was this kid, and it was obviously he was like at a makeshift table at a restaurant, and his abuela was sitting right behind him she had the chancla in her hand, and he's like this on it, and he's kind of like this, like doing the virtual teaching. It's like, virtual teaching in a Hispanic household. You see the abuela just sitting behind him like this. As soon as he tries to play a game, like that. Now, granted, chancla, we could joke about it, but I'm not saying every household should advocate for chancla discipline.
For chancla,
but there should be some kind of thing. And there's an argument to be made about younger kids being more responsive to stimulus response instead of sitting there and going, okay, Aiden and Toby, this is why you shouldn't do that. You're going to have we need to get a sad face today. That doesn't work when you're some of the stuff that happens.
So my phone is dying, but
okay,
I do want to say this real quick before I die. I wanted to point out, back in the day when we were in school, our parents used to be able to pop up in school at any time. Used to be able to sit in the back of that classroom or pull up a chair and sit right next to us. Like, I remember I used to fear for my life, and I was a good student. I was a really good student, but I used to fear for my life whenever I saw my dad come and stand at the door with his construction outfit on, and just to talk to the teacher to see how we were doing, just like a checkup. No parent-teacher conference, no nothing. He would just pop up, and I would see my daddy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, did I not do something? Did I miss my homework? What did I do? Was he called in? And I used to fear other people's parents too.
Yes.
Like, I would never forget Mr. Clark. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's Mr. Clark. Or another friend of mine, Nicole, dear friend, she's still a friend of mine. Her mom's Miss Fisher. And I used to call her mommy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's mommy. Oh my gosh, like, what did we do? Like, she couldn't even beat me. But I'm like, what did we do? Did we do something? Like, we used to fear that there was a...
there was a fear, no, but do you think nowadays, though, like, a lot of parents, they don't want to get involved if another, like, one of the frustrations I had, there was one classroom that was just out of control and the kids were just terrible. But I always we had some of the kids from that classroom on the robotics team. And I asked them, I said, I was talking with the parents. They're like, yeah, I hear it's really bad. I said, well, have you talked to the principal? And like, no, well, we don't want to make waves. And I'm kind of like, if it was my kid, I'd be like, get my kid out of there, or you need to do something about that classroom, or I'm going to ask my kid to tell me who this kid is, and I'm going to talk to their parents directly. Like, do you feel like that there's been a shift in parents? Like, are they worried about making waves? Or is there an intent? Like, because it seems like it's always the really good parents that you trust, the really trustworthy parents that don't want to get involved. Or
I don't know, because I've always gotten involved. I don't know. I've always gotten involved. I have a rule in my house, right? If there's a kid in my house, they have to follow my rules. because there's there's zero way that I'm going to change my rules to accommodate another child, or my children's rules to accommodate another child, or let them follow a whole nother set of rules while my kids have theirs. There is no way. So it's my way or the highway. And I let their parents know that.
Yes.
Which is a big, big thing. So like Ani and JoJo, perfect example. Those are my other two children.
But they get it. Their parents get it. Whereas like some parents may not get
that. But also, and I would tell the parents respectfully, if you don't, if they can't follow my rules, they're not allowed to come to my house. Point blank, period.
That's fair.
Like Ryan, do you remember Ryan?
Yes, sir, Cowboy. Yes.
Cowboy, yes.
Very.
That was another one. They followed my rules, or else they can't come over, and perfectly fine. Parents are perfectly fine with that.
And Cowboy's a great example too about the difference between like a misunderstood kid.
Yeah.
Because he had that anger, he would pop off and have that anger thing, but he was one that like he was one that if you let him pop off, let him cool off, and then he comes over and he would be so apologetic and he would understand. And there's this whole thing. It's already been over 2 hours. I feel like time flies when I want to invite you back, not only for another episode sometime down the line, but I would love to invite you back sooner to do an episode of my mental health podcast, because I want to
absolutely.
And again, because there's so much more we can talk about with not just student mental health, but just growing up, the difference in society and all that. So I'd like to invite you back. Linda, this has been fantastic. I'm sorry I did so much of the talking.
No. I think we were good.
Yes,
we were good.
But thank you so much. Is there anything you'd like to promote to our listeners out there? Anything going on that you'd like them to know about?
No, we're just in the middle of the move, so nothing really on the top of my head. But thank you for having us. Always mental health. Don't be scared of it. We all have it. That's always my thing. We all have it.
And fear the chancla.
Fear the chancla. Listen to your parents. Or
chocolate discipline. Exactly. Needs to be a bumper sticker. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for Educators Podcast. They're turning into Jerry Brooks. The Educators Podcast. I'm Mr. Burden. Linda Arroyo, thank you as always. Also, shout out to Hamelina and Patricia and the new addition. Yes. Fabulous as always. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Catch full episodes of the Educators Podcast every Thursday at 4 p.m. Real educators with the real issues in education. Thank you so much for watching. And, of course, take care of yourself. Jeans passes to anyone who likes, shares, and comments on this video. Have a great week.